Your math is all wrong. You've been cheating. John's angry shout rings in my ears, piercingly. When I had a cafe latte earlier, I didn't drink much, but now I feel incredibly unwell. I'm 9 months pregnant, and John, knowing I'm allergic to milk, made me drink it. Far from being remorseful, he's accusing me of infidelity. No, it's not like that. Help me. I lack the energy to clearly deny John's suspicion. My hoarse voice, barely escaping my lips, bursts and quickly fades in front of him. No use acting like that. I won't be fooled. You're pretending it's a big deal when it's not. John, convinced I'm cheating, leaves me suffering and, maintaining his suspicion, turns his back and walks out of the house. Oh, what do I do? This is the end. With my last bit of strength, I try to call someone on my smartphone. But it slips from my weak grip. Please, someone, help me. My name is Nancy. I'm a 33-year-old housewife, living with my husband John, a classmate of mine. We met through a mutual friend 2 years ago. Both of us are over 30 and thinking about marriage. We were already seriously considering each other as spouses when we met. John works for a general trading company, with a satisfactory income and handsome looks. Excuse me, but why hadn't you married until now? Though it seemed impertinent, I was genuinely curious and asked him right then. I actually had a fiancé until 6 months ago, but it fell through. So, I was looking for a new partner. He replied, refreshingly. I nodded, understanding. Being jilted must have been hard. I hadn't experienced it but could empathize with John's pain. After that, we chatted about trivial things, like hobbies and how we spend our days off. We both enjoyed visiting art galleries and watching movies, and I felt if we dated and got married, we would have fun days together. We hit it off and parted ways, reconnecting a week later. Though the development was surprisingly fast, I could be myself on dates with John, without feeling tense. Being with John, I knew I could be natural. Sensing this, I started making moves on him. It seemed he liked me back, and within a month of meeting, we started dating. It was a whirlwind romance, very different from my past relationships. But I already knew John was a good man, and I wanted to secure a future with him, handsome and with a good income. Our relationship as lovers went smoothly, and a year later, we got married. He proposed during my birthday dinner on a cruise ship. Being allergic to milk, he had the chef use soy milk for my dishes. I really admired and was proud of John for such considerate gestures. Naturally, I accepted the engagement ring and proudly wore it on my left ring finger. I had once dreamt of wearing an engagement ring, and now it felt like a dream come true. I was so happy. I'll cherish you forever, John said, slightly flushed from the wine, and kissed my cheek. That night was blissful, savoring the joy of marrying John. Soon after, we registered our marriage and moved into our new home for just the two of us. Let's live near your parents' house. It's close to my work too. It'll be safer, right? Wow, really? Thank you. John suggested we live in an apartment near my parents' home, knowing I'm an only child and they'd be worried. Considering we might start a family soon, I was grateful for the idea. I might need my parents' help. My family, including relatives, all live nearby. As a kid, I used to play a lot with my cousin Tom. So, starting a new life near my family home was just what I wished for. When we began our life in the new place, I quickly realized something. John didn't do any housework at all. But, since I became a full-time homemaker, I thought it was okay. However, as time went on, it wasn't just that he didn't do housework, he increasingly made a mess. No matter how much I cleaned, it would quickly get messy again. I once gently tried to talk to John about it. Hey, can you try to keep the room a bit tidier? Like, at least put your clothes in the laundry basket? I said it as kindly as I could. But John didn't like being told what to do and just responded with, "That's annoying, I don't wanna." I sighed and picked up his scattered clothes. Apart from his untidiness, there wasn't much else that bothered me. On days off, he always tried to take me out on dates. We watched movies we liked and visited limited-time art exhibits. Our married life was fulfilling. The shadow over our happy life appeared when I discovered I was pregnant. I realized I was late and tested positive. I went to the hospital and was told I was pregnant. I was overjoyed at the thought of having a child with John. The mere fact of carrying a child I shared with my loved one made the world seem brighter. When I got home that day, I couldn't wait to tell John. "Honey, I have big news. I'm pregnant," I said with a beaming smile, but John's eyes widened in disbelief. "Really?" "Yes, really. I'm 3 months along. The baby will be born around the 9th month, so we have some time, but it's exciting," I said cheerfully. But I saw a cloud of doubt cross John's face. 3 months. Yes. Huh. John seemed caught on something, stroking his chin thoughtfully. "Aren't you happy?" "Well, sort of." John's response was cryptic, and he didn't say anything more. Maybe he didn't really want a child with me. But before we got married, he casually mentioned wanting as many kids as possible. So why isn't he happy? I was left feeling unsettled, but the fact remained, I was pregnant. I tried to convince myself that John was just struggling to catch up with the sudden news. They say fathers often develop paternal instincts later, so maybe he just couldn't grasp the pregnancy news suddenly. I reassured myself. But since that day, John's attitude has become somewhat colder. Even when I suffered from morning sickness, he didn't help with the housework. He never did household chores, but I thought he might help when his wife was in trouble. "I'm sorry, but I'm feeling really sick today. I don't think I can cook," I told John before he left for work, but he snapped. "What? You didn't cook before, and now you suddenly think you can? Pregnancy isn't an illness. Nancy, your main job as a homemaker is to do the housework, right? Even if you're feeling a bit ill, you should still cook. I go to work even when I'm not feeling well." John glared at me as if he was right, leaving me in disbelief. John often goes to work even when he's feeling under the weather, but how sick someone feels can vary a lot. To me, barely able to get out of bed because I feel so sick, his words sounded downright cruel. "But I really can't move," I replied with a pleading look, but John just snorted dismissively. "Fine. I'll grab something to eat out today," he said, almost spitting the words out, and left the house. I never imagined it would come to this. I had always thought that John and I would definitely build a happy home together. But his attitude changed completely as soon as I got pregnant. Maybe I was wrong about him, I thought, feeling down. That night, John came home drunk. I had been feeling sick all day and hadn't eaten much. I hoped he might have brought something back that I could eat, but he came home empty-handed. That made sense, given how he's been acting lately. Am I just not important to John anymore? Doesn't he want our child? Such thoughts made me incredibly sad. Even after I entered the stable period of my pregnancy, John's attitude didn't change. In fact, he seemed even harsher now that I was feeling better. "So, some of my junior colleagues want to come over to our place," John said one day after coming home from work. "Juniors? How many?" "5. Might be more. I want you to cook for them. Don't serve anything lousy. I don't want them to know my wife can't cook." "Huh, 5 people, that's a lot. Can our place even fit that many? Besides, I don't think I can handle that much right now. Even though it's my stable period, I don't feel up to entertaining and cooking for so many people. There would be a lot to handle. The thought of hosting them all by myself was daunting." "It'll be fine, you're in your stable period. Anyway, I'm bringing them over this weekend. Make sure you don't embarrass me." John then went to the bathroom, humming a tune, as if he had said nothing out of the ordinary. I was filled with anxiety. As promised, John brought 5 colleagues over the next weekend. 4 men and 1 woman, the gender balance seemed off to me. But maybe there are fewer women in sales at a general trading company. "Nice to meet you, I'm Emily. Thanks for having me today." The cheerful greeting came from the only woman, Emily. She had long hair swept to the side and striking features, looking like she was in her late 20s. Despite being younger than me, she had the air of a beautiful older sister. I felt immediately tense. "Nice to meet you. I can't offer much, but please, make yourselves comfortable," I said, trying to act like a boss's wife, and ushered everyone to the dining table. As I started preparing the meal in the kitchen, the group, including John, chatted away about work and gossip. Emily seemed particularly good at keeping the conversation lively, with timely responses and sharp interjections. I felt like I couldn't fit into their circle. Resigned to staying in the background, I brought the food to the table once it was ready. Everyone seemed pleased with the meal. "Is this cream soup made with soy milk?" Emily asked, her large eyes growing even wider. Yes, it is. I'm allergic to cow's milk, so I always use soy milk for dishes that need milk. Oh, I see. Emily responded, seemingly satisfied with my explanation, and continued eating. Come on, just because you're allergic to milk doesn't mean you can't use real milk for guests. John retorted sharply. I had expected him to say something like that, so I sighed. I have to eat it too, so it has to be soy milk. Then you should have made separate dishes. But I can't taste it if it's not soy. Our guests watched our exchange with bewildered expressions. Sorry everyone, she insists on this allergy thing. But allergies are just like picky eating, right? John mocked me. The juniors looked uneasy, probably out of respect for their boss. Well, soy milk is tasty too. Please, enjoy it while it's still warm, I said, trying to sound cheerful. Only Emily seemed deep in thought, remaining silent. The dinner with John's juniors somehow came to an end, leaving me completely exhausted. I had hoped John would at least say thank you, but he went to sleep without saying a word. Recently, our conversations had dwindled, and I was feeling very insecure. His mocking comments about my allergy today only added to my frustration. Months passed, and I was now 9 months pregnant. John had been coming home late from work, and we hardly talked anymore. I missed the days when we used to go out on dates and felt incredibly lonely. With the baby coming soon, I thought it was natural to want to enjoy our time together. But John didn't seem to share that wish. One day, John appeared in the living room with a large bag and a familiar cup in his hand. It was from a coffee chain we used to visit when we were closer. I'm going on a business trip for 3 days starting today. I took a walk this morning and found this store, so I bought this. Soy latte, remember? Oh, yes. We haven't been there in a while. It was unusual for John to go for a walk in the morning. Finding the coffee shop and buying soy lattes seemed out of character for him lately. He waited with a smile as I took the soy latte. Had he had a change of heart? I was a little happy, thinking John might be returning to his kinder self. I wished we could go for a walk together again. Maybe after the baby is born. I took the soy latte from John and drank it eagerly. It brought back memories, but I quickly realized it didn't taste like the usual soy lattes. Ugh, this is normal milk. By the time I realized, it was too late. I dropped the cup from my hand. John's face was twisted into a smug grin. I'm in pain. My breathing became labored, and I collapsed on the spot. I've always suspected. Is the child in your belly really mine? What? I was utterly shocked by his sudden accusation, suspecting the baby was someone else's. When you said you were 3 months pregnant, I doubted it. I don't recall doing anything that could lead to it 3 months ago. But that's... I wanted to explain, thinking John was misunderstanding something, but I couldn't speak through my struggling breaths. Your calculations are off. You must have cheated. John's angry shout echoed in my ears. I had only had a little of the cafe latte, but now I felt extremely unwell. John, far from showing any remorse for making me drink milk, an allergen, while I was 9 months pregnant, instead suspected me of cheating. No, it's not that, please help me. I lacked the energy to clearly deny John's suspicion. The raspy voice that emerged from my lips burst and quickly vanished in front of him. All that acting is pointless. I'm not fooled. It's just an allergy, not a big deal. John, convinced that I was cheating, turned his back on me, suffering, and left the house without helping. Oh, what should I do? This is the end. With my last strength, I tried to call someone on my smartphone. But the phone slipped from my powerless hand. Please, someone, help me. As I desperately screamed in my mind, my consciousness began to fade. When I woke up, the first thing I saw was a white wall and ceiling, and I realized I was in a hospital. I had been saved. As I felt relieved, a face peered into my view. Nancy! You're awake! Tom. It was Tom, my cousin who lived nearby. I got a call from Nancy, but heard nothing at first, so I thought it was a mistake. But then I heard labored breathing and realized something was wrong. I rushed to Nancy's house, the door was unlocked, and she collapsed in the living room. I was shocked. I called an ambulance and got her to the hospital. Tom explained earnestly. I had called Tom just before collapsing. He had always been like a reliable older brother, always looking out for me. I thought he would come to help in an emergency. But before I could ask for help, I dropped the phone. In a seemingly hopeless situation, Tom quickly sensed the emergency and rushed to help, for which I was profoundly grateful. "I'll call the doctor. Just wait here." Tom went out and soon returned with a doctor. The doctor explained that I had suffered an anaphylactic shock from drinking milk and had barely survived. Hearing that just a few more minutes could have endangered the baby's life, or left me with disabilities, sent a chill down my spine. I owe my life to Tom. "Tom, thank you, really. No need to thank me." "But what happened?" It was natural for Tom to be puzzled. It's unthinkable for me, allergic to milk, to drink it myself. Well, actually, I told Tom everything about my marriage to John. How we were attracted to each other, thinking we were meant to be, and got married. How we had similar interests and enjoyed our dates. How we lived happily after marriage. And how John's attitude completely changed the moment I got pregnant. Even now, I don't understand what I did wrong. Tom crossed his arms, seemingly deep in thought. "John's behavior changed after you told him about the pregnancy, right?" "Yes. When I said I was 3 months pregnant, he thought the calculation was off. He became convinced I had cheated and did this as retaliation, I think." Hearing this, Tom's expression hardened. "Even as a retaliation, this is too much. Making you drink milk when he knows you're allergic. What was John thinking?" There was clear anger in Tom's eyes. I was touched by how much he cared for me. "It's unbelievable. If it weren't for Tom, both I and my baby might not have survived." The thought of what could have happened without Tom's help made me shiver. I was relieved it didn't turn out that way, but I was also filled with a desire to get back at John. "What are you going to do about John?" Tom seemed to be thinking the same thing and asked me. "Of course, I can't just let it go. I need to give him a proper punishment," I replied. Tom then said, "In that case," and started speaking. "I have a good idea." After hearing Tom's plan to discipline John, I couldn't wait to talk to John. The plan was to be executed when I was discharged and met John for the first time. I had resolved in my heart to do as Tom suggested when I saw John again. But, unexpectedly, I had to put the plan into action sooner than I thought. 3 days after I was hospitalized, John called me. It happened to be when Tom was visiting me. As I hesitated to answer the phone, unsure and unprepared, the ringing stopped. But then John called again immediately. He's persistent. I sighed, staring at the non-stop ringing phone. After a short pause, the phone rang yet again. As the pattern repeated, I looked at Tom, appealing with my eyes, wondering what to do. "Let's execute that plan a bit early." "Okay, I understand." Nervously, I picked up the smartphone, pressed the call button, turned on the speaker, and placed it on the table. "Hello, Nancy? You finally answered. I've been looking everywhere for you since I got back from my business trip. Why did you run away from home?" "Because of you, I couldn't even have dinner." John's angry voice echoed through the hospital room. Had I held the phone to my ear, it would have hurt. John, without any concern for me, started yelling right away. He was the one who made me drink milk and sent me to the hospital. His complaint about not being able to eat dinner was just the result of his own doing, never cooking himself. If he can't cook, he could have just eaten out, but he's like a child, unable to do even that. I listened to John's angry words with a feigned innocence, exchanging a determined nod with Tom. "Excuse me, but who is this?" I asked, deliberately lowering my voice tone to confuse John. "What? What are you talking about?" John's incredulous voice came from the other side of the phone. Tom and I exchanged glances and smirked. "I don't recognize you. Your name appears as John on my phone's screen. Are you perhaps my husband?" "What?" John's voice, full of confusion, rose in question. It was to be expected. After persistently calling his wife, and when she finally answered, she pretended not to know him. I looked at Tom and smirked again. Tom nodded, narrowing his eyes, and then took the phone from me, speaking to John. "Hello, John. My name is Tom. I heard Nancy's voice on the phone and asked to talk to you." "Huh, Tom? Who are you?" "Oh, are you the father of Nancy's baby in her belly? So, you're the one she cheated with." John jumped to conclusions and accused Tom in a sharp voice. "Cheating? What are you talking about? I'm Nancy's cousin. Actually, Nancy is suffering from amnesia right now. Amnesia? Yes, this was the plan Tom and I had come up with. I would pretend to have lost my memory to confuse John. The idea was to draw out John's admission that he had made me drink milk. We had originally intended to execute it when we met in person, but John's call had pushed the timeline forward. But that's not a problem. In fact, it might be better over the phone since he can't see my face. Yes. Oh, you didn't know? Nancy had an anaphylactic shock 3 days ago from a cafe latte she drank. What? John seemed unfamiliar with the term, and I could tell he was puzzled over the phone. She nearly died from ingesting milk, an allergen. It almost affected the baby in her womb. Nancy has lost her memory from the psychological shock. You were the one who gave it to her, right? Tom said sternly, and John let out a small scream. No, it's not. What's not? I did give her the drink, but it was Emily who told me to do it. John exclaimed, his voice shaking. Hearing this unbelievable revelation, Tom and I exchanged glances. Then suddenly, we heard a woman's voice from the other end of the line. Wait a minute. It was Emily. I remembered her well as one of John's juniors who had visited our house before, and she was pretty. Could it be that John was cheating with Emily? Why are you blaming me? You're the one who actually gave it to her. You said if she drank milk, which she's allergic to, she'd be bedridden for a few days, so we could go on a trip without getting caught. Yes, but you made her drink too much of it. John and Emily started arguing. From their conversation, it seemed like when Emily had learned about my milk allergy during her previous visit, they planned to make me drink a little milk to worsen my condition, so they could go on a trip without worries. There was no doubt in my mind that John and Emily were having an affair. After accusing me of cheating, it turned out he was the one cheating. I felt nauseous at John's inconsistent actions and words. I made eye contact with Tom, and he took over the call. Thank you for your cooperation. I've recorded your entire conversation. Suddenly hearing my voice, John and Emily gasped in shock. What do you mean? Sorry. The amnesia was a lie. I said that to get a confession from you about the milk. And thanks to that, I also got evidence of your affair. I'll be claiming a hefty amount in alimony. As I said this cheerfully, John and Emily exclaimed in unison, What? It's unbelievable how foolish they are. Even now, they don't understand the gravity of their actions. Tom and I were simply astounded. That's dirty. Besides, you were cheating too, weren't you? If that's the case, we should split the alimony, right? No, since I knew about your cheating, I thought of cheating with Emily. So, it's all your fault. You don't deserve any alimony. John said triumphantly, but he was grossly mistaken. Oh really? When did I say I cheated? Isn't it obvious from the pregnancy weeks? John was still misunderstanding. I took the opportunity to set him straight. Pregnancy weeks are counted from the last menstrual period. You didn't even know that and unjustly suspected me of cheating, then decided to cheat yourself. What a lowlife. I'm divorcing you. Be prepared to pay a large sum in alimony. I shouted with all my might and abruptly ended the call. After that, I blocked John's number. Finally, peace returned. Tom, thank you so much. I didn't want to see Nancy sad. It was good to put John in his place. We sighed in relief, looking at each other. From now on, I'll be raising a fatherless child, but it's far better than having a father like John. Later, Tom and I handed over the recording of John and Emily's confession to the police. They were arrested and are currently under police interrogation. I heard from one of John's juniors at work that their affair was obvious to everyone. The junior said they regretted not speaking up sooner, but I understood it's hard to expose a senior's wrongdoings. I told the junior, it's okay. John's previous engagement had also ended because he changed halfway through. It made perfect sense. Furthermore, John and Emily had gone on trips claiming them as business trips, misusing company funds, leading to their dismissal. Now out of prison and jobless, they'll have to start their lives from scratch. The alimony I'm demanding isn't a small sum. They paid for it, but I wonder what they'll do now. Perhaps being in jail would have been better for them. I have no sympathy for them, they deserve to reflect on their actions. Meanwhile, I gave birth to a baby girl and am raising her at my parents' house with their help. Tom occasionally visits to help with the baby. When she's a little bigger, shall we go out together? Tom asked me with sincere eyes, and I nodded with a smile, yes. I began to wonder if, perhaps in the near future, there might be a chance for Tom and me to be together. Such dreamlike thoughts filled my mind.